Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone in the chamber and those listening online to the Board of Commissioners meeting. It is 24th day of November 2020. This is about 5:32, and we will be addressing a public hearing this afternoon as part of our agenda. I know Commissioner Jenkins will be joining us shortly. We're going to start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance from our own McCarty Froer, if she wants to come up. I'm Commissioner Gage Froer. I'll be conducting this evening, and to my right, Commissioner Jim Harvey. Commissioner Jenkins will be joining us. Invocation will be given tonight by Chris Crockett, and then the thought of the day, Commissioner Harvey. McCarty, welcome.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, McCarty. Mr. Crockett.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads before Thee this evening to offer up our thanks and gratitude for the many blessings that we have. We are grateful to be residents of this great county and to be able to have the honor to serve those who live here, to find ways to improve their quality of their life. We are grateful for this opportunity, this time of Thanksgiving, to be reminded of all the many wonderful blessings that we have, and to find ways to come together and to be united as we press forward and persevering against this pandemic. We love Thee, dear Heavenly Father, and we ask that Thou will continue to bless us as we go forward and do so. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Chair Froer. What a great week it is, and what a unique time. When normally families gather together and spend time to give thanks for what they have. We've been reminded of many different ways to give thanks. In fact, Bill, are you where you can get those pictures? Yeah. You know, recently I wanted the people of the county to know that the support in the commission office put together just a small food drive to help needy families or people who are in need, those who are without. And up there on your picture, those who are joining us via online and those who are in the audience can see some of the ways that our employees just in this office responded. Go ahead and hit that next one, Bill. Gives you another little shot of it. Several turkeys, a lot of canned goods, some different things. Bill, let's hit that next one. You can see what that did to a pickup truck. And boy, the people were grateful that received that. I want to give a special thank you to you, Stacy, and Shelley and Christy, and all the other employees of Weber County, those who unselfishly gave out of their own pantries or their own wallet to help others who may not be as fortunate or may have fallen on some troubled times. Bill, were you able to get those other pictures? Just a moment before we go to those. You know, one of the things that we're fortunate in the state of Utah to have is a church headquarters, and the leader of the LDS Church put out a special message last week, Friday at 11 o'clock, and basically asked people to give thanks, to be thankful for the things that they have. Especially in today's day, there's a lot of divisiveness and there's a lot of hate, and I would encourage people to find ways to be respectful of one another, to find ways to be kind. One of the great things about being human is we all will err. We all have an opportunity to do better. Tonight, out at the Weber County Fairgrounds, the Golden Spike Event Center, Bill, if you'll go to the next slide, there's an event called Farmers Feeding Families. You can see in the foreground there, those are all bags, insulated, refrigerated type bags to keep food. In those bags are butter, cheese, eggs, dozens of eggs, and a lot of dairy products. And the green bags are more things that are produce related, vegetables related, a lot of corn or canned items as well. You'll see kind of in between there some black cartons. Those are milk cartons, gallons of milk. And clear back where the law enforcement is there, the gentleman in black, there are turkeys. Let's go to the next slide, Bill. We, as a commission, were able to just support that group there. You can see the truck in the background with all kinds of onions in there and some of the volunteers that were putting those things together. Special attention, call out to Naomi there from USU. USU Extension Service, our extension office that's out on Fairgrounds Drive, helps facilitate this. Also our Sheriff's Department. Farmers Feeding Family. Let's go to the next one. Just another shot, again showing in those cars. You really can't see in the picture, but the cars serpentined through the parking lot and went all the way down Bill Bailey Boulevard, which is a quarter mile long. Through the USU Extension, they identified families in need. And those families in need all lined up tonight from 4 to 5 o'clock and got in line, and so that it was touchless, so that it was safe, so that the risk of COVID can spread was low. They basically would open the hatchback of their car, and then volunteers would load those bags or those pre-sorted, pre-packaged gift bags in the back of their car and close the back hatch, and off they'd drive with certainly enough for a big Thanksgiving for many people in there. Is there one more pick, Bill, or is that it? Farmers Feeding Families. I know that there were more than 1,000 turkeys, and they're out there right now giving those away. They had other produce and things for more than 1,200 people. Those are all locals. Those are just local Weber counties people. I'm grateful for kindness. I'm grateful for people who look beyond themselves and can get away from within their own lives and their own heads and help others. And those are just two great examples that are directly affect people right in our own community. And I'm so grateful for the people of this county. So many people have done so many good things, and I'm grateful for their philanthropic behavior, for their kindness and their unselfishness. And those are my thoughts today, Commissioners. Thank you.
Great thought. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, that brings us to the point of our agenda for public comments. Anybody online or in the chamber that would like to make a public comment, keep in mind we'll be having a public hearing here in just a few minutes. So if you want to make a comment on the budget, I would suggest you wait until those public comment period opens up. So anybody like to come forward? Come on up. Could you please just state your name for the people listening online? Be appreciated.
Hi, my name is David Shoup.
Good evening, David.
Good evening. Thank you for your thoughts, Commissioner Harvey. I hope that I can recite or at least convey my thoughts in such a way that I'm respectful. Maybe I should start by asking a simple question. My comments that I've prepared, I'm afraid, will take more than the 3 minutes that I've been allotted to speak. And
So I would suggest that if it's going to be longer than 3 minutes, you send us an email. We'd be happy to respond to it.
fair enough.
But you do have 2.5 minutes left, so.
Well, in that amount of time, let me ask the biggest question that I have. In 2017, I paid my taxes, my property taxes late, and Weber County assessed a penalty of 1% of the taxable value of my home for that mistake that I made. Back in 1998, Weber County made a mistake, entered a digit wrong on my property. As a consequence, I was overtaxed for a period of 18 years. Long story short, I get penalized when I make a mistake, but to date, even though about 2.5 years ago, I stood in this very same spot and asked for 3 things. I asked for my money back, I asked for interest on that money, and I asked for a penalty. You've addressed the first 2, but you've done nothing about the penalty. So if Weber County has the right to assess a penalty on me, why don't I have that same right to assess a penalty back on Weber County when they make a mistake? Are you at liberty to answer that?
Well, this is really not a forum we're going to answer questions, but I would make it brief that we follow state statute. If you would like a change in that, I would suggest you're talking to the wrong people here. You need to talk to your state legislators. That's a state issue.
Mm-hmm. I've pursued that route and I get stonewalled. And when I've tried to call you, Commissioner Frohr, and talk about the same issue as to what Weber County has done to rectify the situation, I got hung up on. Yes, Mr. Frohr, you did that to me. So I'm a little reticent, and I have to come to a forum such as this in order to even be heard. So if you'll respond to an email, I'll be happy to email you, or all 3 of you, and I'd like to get your comments, all 3 of you, on all of my questions. So I'll phrase my comments in the form of an email.
Please
and
do.
allow you to respond that way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Anybody else that would like to come forward, or anybody on Zoom? Stacy? Seeing none, let's go to our consent items, if we might. And this would be consent items F1 through 10. 11 will show up on your agenda, but that will be held until the following week or the 8th. So with the consent items, F1, request for approval to ratify warrants 3251 through 3262 and 454, 559 through 454, 684 in the amount of $1,191,741.44 dated November 17th, 2020. 2, request for approval of warrants 3263 through 3304 and 454, 685 through 454, 952 in the amount of $4,199,847.64. 3, request for approval to ratify purchase orders in the amount of $148,580.80 dated November 17, 2020. 4, request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $74,805.97. 5, request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on November 10th, 2020. 6, request for approval of a new business license. 7, request from the Peary's Egyptian Theater Ogden Eccles Conference Center for approval to surplus lighting equipment. 8, request from the Golden Spike Event Center for approval to surplus a 1996 JLG man lift. 9, request for approval of a Staker Parsons contract change order. 13, covering relocation work that took place on Weber Basin's PRV valve at no cost to the county. 10, request to abate taxes for parcels identified as tax ID 4244 and 42430 owned by a tax-exempt entity. 11, request for approval of agreement for distribution of CARES Act funding to the Weber Fire District. And 12 is the one that we'll be holding for future use. So actually items F1 through 11 are what's in consideration. Commissioners, comments before we go to Ricky?
I would, Mr. Chair, one thing.
Go ahead.
Really happy to see that item number 8, the JLG man lift, come off the.
Yeah, 1996, yeah.
Yeah, but I would, for a potential bidder, I would have them check the weld on the ram on the lower part of that unit.
Inside information.
Inside information that when you put a man 70 feet in the air, you may want to check that.
We appreciate that.
Commissioners, is that items F 1 through 10 and holding 11?
That's,
Well, so I'm showing on the internet copy, I'm showing 12 items, not 11, which is different than the paper copy we have. So the items requesting contracts for the 5 carols was actually 12 on the agenda I'm showing.
Okay, but the actual agenda says 11 are those contracts for the 5 carols.
Right.
The paper agenda is correct.
Okay, so,
okay, got it. So it would be
Okay.
items 1 through 10.
1 through 10.
And holding
Holding
item
11.
11.
So hold item 11, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you got it. Okay, Mr. Hatch?
Good evening, Commissioners. We have 2 weeks' worth of reports this week. I'll try to keep my comments under an hour.
Good.
We issued 12 purchase orders for the week of November 17th for $149,000. Just over a third of that amount, we had 2 items for about $50,000 each. One was for the Golden Spike Event Center for improvements to the exhibit hall concessions areas. Secondly was for the parks, and that was to replace faucets and flush valves in the restrooms. 13% or $19,000 is for, will go towards medical room partitions. And then 9% or $14,000 is for IT, and that will go to purchase laptops for the surveyor's office, as well as some IP hardware and software. For the week of this past week, we issued 19 purchase orders for $75,000. A third of that amount, or $24,000, will go towards medical treatment beds. And then 25%, or $18,000, is for the transfer station. That will go towards staffing, equipment repair, and maintenance. We had 2 items at $10,000 apiece, or 14% of the total. One was for IT to purchase software and software service, and then one for the Golden Spike Event Center for concessions, and then HVAC repair. As far as checks, last week we issued 136 checks for $1.2 million. A third of that amount, or $388,000, is for the Egyptian Theater lighting upgrade. 28%, or $338,000, went towards the parking lot demolition. 13%, or $150,000, is for the health department to fund the tobacco program. And 7%, or $85,000, is for the jail, and that covered culinary, utilities, public relations, as well as building maintenance. For the check run just ending this week, we wrote 313 checks for $4.2 million. 23% of that amount, or $973,000, was 12th Street construction. 18%, or $736,000, was health insurance for employees. 12%, or $511,000, was for the transfer station. That was primarily disposal fees. 10%, or $400,000, was for the jail, and that went towards nursing services, as well as food, utilities, and healthcare. And then 7%, or $283,000, was related to 2 escrow releases for developments within the county.
Questions? Comments?
I have questions.
Go ahead.
So faucets and flush valves, how much did you say for those?
The faucets and flush valves, those are for
I know what they're for.
Apologize.
What was the amount?
$50,000.
And who was the contract to?
Find that. Hold on just one second. Sorry, I have to go through the 2 different reports. Almost there. That is to UEAC is the vendor name.
I don't know them.
I believe they do. They've done work with the ventilation systems
That's
as well.
the contractor. And they're
Okay.
bringing those with them. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't have to
Recused.
recuse myself. All right. Secondly, when you guys list these deals down here, some of them you don't identify. And so it makes it hard for me to pick them up. So on page 10, for $124,981,000, $124,981. DMLP Resources LLC. See, I don't know what that means, and it says capital improvements. Don't know what capital improvements.
Yeah, that's for the pole building.
For the pole building?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a down payment. Okay, got that. So, just so you know, while we're on that pole buildings, you remember we had a few issues out there.
Liquefaction.
They had to mess around. Well, all the time they was messing around with that, we lost our spot in the rotation. They were going to start that this week. So now we're into March.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we've lost 4 months on this. And, it's not the end of the world, but God, that's what happens when this stuff happens.
You guys are busy.
So, page 16.
Did they, excuse me, Commissioner,
Yeah,
did they hold our price?
price is good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Wakeless Holdings LLC, Treasurer's Suspense Special Projects.
That's escrow release for the Halcyon.
It's for what?
Escrow release for the Halcyon Estates development.
See, how would I know that by reading that?
On the report that comes out of the system, it's not evident. I look at it both at that report and then I look at it behind the scenes where I can drill down a little bit more.
Normally I try to call you on these, Ricky, and I was reading these last night and I didn't come in this morning. And anyway, I apologize for not getting to you.
No, not a problem.
Okay, and finally, that takes care of that. The other one I wanted to ask you about was this tax entity application for adjustment settled deferral of property taxes that's on there. So basically, we're going back 5 years here? Well, I guess we're in 2020, so it'll be 4 years. Right?
Yes. You're talking about the other consent item?
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is a deferral of taxes because they're nonprofit and they didn't apply to do it, right?
That's correct. And that was reviewed, and that's the recommendation from the Tax Review Committee. The lack of application was due to the death of the pastor of the entity. Beyond that, I don't have additional details.
I'm not sure you need any beyond that. That's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it was their mistake and not ours, but it goes right back to what Mr. Shaw was saying. I think the law only requires us to go back a year, and we're going back 4 years here. And so that's kind of a policy we've made as a county. And in this case, it's $16,000, so it's substantial. All right, thank you very much. That answers my questions, Mr. Chair.
Any additional questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we approve consent items 1 through and including 10, holding item number 11, on today's commission agenda.
Great, as per the paper agenda. Thank you. We have a motion.
And I'll second that, noting while let's see, number 11 we held up. Okay, yeah, I'll agree
Yeah,
with that.
11,
So I'll second
we're going
that.
off the paper agenda, the one we received
Yeah,
on
that's
the
right.
internet.
I
Yeah.
just did what you did. I got on the wrong agenda.
Okay, and that was a second, I take it, from Commissioner Jenkins.
That was.
Place a motion. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. Let's go now to our action items. Start off with G1. This would be consideration for adoption of a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than 2.5 million additional aggregate principal amount of federally taxable convertible tax to tax exempt special assessment refunding bond, Summit Mountain Assessment Area, Series 2020, together with 14 million of bonds authorized previously by resolution number 40-2020, adopted on November 10th, 2020, for a total of $16,500,000 and the related matters to that. Mr. John Bond, do you want to explain that to us?
Yes. I was going to check. We should have our bond counsel, Randy Larson, and our financial advisor from Zions Bank, Jonathan Ward,
Great.
on the Zoom.
They with us?
I was just going to check and see if they are.
We are. This is Randy.
Good.
Welcome, gentlemen. John, do you want to start or do you want to turn the time over to them?
Why don't I turn the time over to Randy Larson and to Jonathan Ward for just a minute and just go through those details for you. And if you got questions,
Perfect.
we'll get those.
Go ahead.
So Randy, if you go ahead, please.
You bet. Commissioners, for the chance to visit real quickly. This resolution before you is the follow-up to what was adopted in the last council meeting. We approved $14 million for refunding, and we operated under the assumption that we could issue those bonds in a parity with the existing bonds. Refunding bonds have 2 years of payments that don't make financial sense to refund. However, on further review, we realized that we couldn't be on a parity. So we need to go ahead and refund those bonds. It won't be a cost saving, but it won't be a cost loss either. It'll still be a saver to the deal in general. I'm probably stepping on Jonathan's toes here a little, but let me just say that what's before you is basically an expansion of that bonding parameter from 14 million to 16.5 million. Purposes and intentions are the same. This resolution doesn't rescind the authorization from the prior commission meeting. It just expands that and does trigger a new notice that clarifies that it will be no more than $16.5 million total based upon the $2.5 million additional authority that's before you for consideration today. Jonathan, you might want to talk about the financials. Sorry I jumped into that.
No, I'd agree. There is a slight decrease in savings due to the inefficiency of refinancing the 3 maturities that are not prepayable on the 2013 bonds, but it's relatively small, about $70,000 compared to the 1.2 or thereabouts that's estimated to be saved by doing the transaction right now in this low interest rate environment.
Thank you. Any questions for either of these gentlemen, commissioners?
The question I have, John, is I understand the process, and that's what they're talking to. I have no problem with that. The $2.5 million we're adding to it. Can you explain to me why we're doing that? We went 14, 16 and a half.
The way I understand it and what they're trying to present is that we, a week ago, took only a portion of the bonds that were due and put them into a refinance environment. We didn't take all of them last week. As we've looked at the ability to go to a lender in a private setting and do a private sale, and I guess I'll have Jonathan correct me if I'm saying anything offside, but last week we just took a portion of the bonds that were outstanding, but not all of them. They've since discovered in their review that for us to market them, we have to market all of the bonds for the Summit bond assessment bond, and not just 3/4 of them, so to speak, or 80% of them.
I have no problem with that. I just wondered why we had $2.5 million added there, and I wanted to make sure I was aware of everything that was happening.
Yeah, there were 3 years that were not included in last week, so we just took about 80% of the bonds. Now we're including 100% of them.
I have no problem with that.
Randy, have I said that correctly?
Yeah. The only thing I would add is the reason to add is because the proposed issue for your purchaser of the bonds wouldn't want to be in a subordinate position to that $2.5 million. And they technically would have been had we only issued the 14. So that's the issue. It's further information from the purchaser with the best rate that led us back to expand the authorization to par amount. Well, thank you.
You know, he's breaking up so bad, it's hard to understand. everything
I
he
think,
says.
yeah, I had the, Commissioner, I had the same exact question.
Right.
Yeah, but
prior to-
I think I got that.
Sat down with John and
Yeah.
went through that. It's basically an aggregation of all.
Okay.
Some of the ones we missed a week ago.
Correct.
Or 2 weeks
No
ago.
problem with that.
That's what it is.
Easier to market
it-
all of them instead of 80% of them.
Yeah,
The 80% would have to be a subordinate bond to the 3 that are still outstanding that we
Sure.
were not going to refinance. And subordinating or making them a junior, so to speak, would not make it palatable to go out to the market. So
Right.
they've decided best to put them all into a bond issue.
I have no problem
we
with it.
basically
Yeah,
aggregated.
this is fine.
You know, so I think the message that needs to be clear on this, and gentlemen online, if I'm not correct, please correct me, but we still have a net savings of approximately 1.2 million with this new bond issuance. Would that be correct?
Jonathan, I think those are the numbers, correct?
That is correct.
So we combine that with our other savings, our other bonds, fairly substantial for Weber County in tax savings, or excuse me, in interest savings this year, Mr. Bond.
Right. We had initially thought we'd be able to save $1.3 million. I think we're now down to about $1.2 million.
Right.
Because of the inefficiency of putting all the bonds into a series that we're trying to refinance.
Still not a bad savings.
It's a great savings. And I think
That's right.
when we finish this in the next 3 or 4 weeks or a month, whatever, and I come to you with the final savings, which you asked for, of all the 2 bonds that we've paid off and the 3 bonds that we're refinancing, I think we'll just be around $4 million in savings.
Oh,
Yeah, that was my
1
calculation.
year.
that's net present value.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
That's great,
We'll
John.
have final numbers
That's
when
great.
we get this one concluded, and this will be the last bond we bring to you. And when we get it done, we'll bring them all together and give you a quick summary.
Yeah, we'll do a summary at the end of the year, but headed the right direction on this. John, I appreciate your work on this. Bond counsel, Zion's done a great job with this. Commissioner Harvey, questions or comment?
No, I just can see the smile in Scott Park's face over there.
I missed that, so thank you for telling me about that.
Okay, commissioners, anything else, Mr. Bond? Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes this one, yes.
All right, commissioners, back for action. This would actually be a resolution number 41, I believe.
Correct.
That be correct? Yes. I'm ready for a motion.
I'd make a motion that we approve this refinance resolution number 41. And I want to, in doing so, I want to thank you commissioners for all of us working together. We are driven by the same thing, to keep our overhead low and to keep our indebtedness low and the interest that we're paying on these things as low as possible. And so you've done a great job, all of us, especially you, Commissioner Four, Chair Four, in this whole thing. So,
John's been the one driving this. I've just asked the question
Sure.
when I wasn't sure. but-
John, we appreciate you. Want you to know that.
Thank you.
You do a great job.
Thank
You and your
I just have
office.
one question. In government, there are jobs on planning commissions, jobs in municipalities. There are even jobs in the House and the Senate. But what is the best job of all?
Commissioner.
It is.
Well said. Okay, was that a motion, Commissioner?
motion.
I think I heard a motion a while ago. Do I have a second?
Second.
Resolution 41.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Frohr.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thanks, John. Appreciate
Good.
you.
Thank you to Randy and Jonathan for coming on board, for Ricky and Chris and Scott. A lot of work. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of work. Mr. Park, everybody, our legal counsel, appreciate all your work on behalf of the citizens of Weber County. All right, let's go to action item G2. This would be a request for approval of an addendum to an interlocal cooperation agreement for the distribution of CARES Act funding to Ogden City. Mr. Bond, you're still up.
Good, thank you. Commissioners, on the 1st of October, we were here to present to you an agreement that Ogden City's council passed that provided a relationship between the county and the $24 million of CARES funds that we received, and our ability then to move about $3 million of that to Ogden City for a nonprofit program. So that was the 1st of October. You approved that after the Ogden City Council approved the agreement. We've since found a need to add more to those funds that we're providing to Ogden City, expanding the program, and we found with working with Ogden City, great success. And we're pleased that the Ogden City Council last Tuesday approved a second part of this contract, which would be to add to that $3 million for nonprofits, another $500,000 from the WEBER Cares, the WEBER County portion. So that would put the nonprofits at 3.5. It also allows for a $3.8 million portion of funds from the county's portion to go to small businesses in Ogden City and to support them. Preliminarily, the numbers look like this, and that would be that about 46 nonprofits have been helped by that $3.5 million is the preliminary data, and about 170 businesses, small businesses, would be helped by pushing $3.8 million of the county's funds to the Ogden City CARES program to assist them with businesses, small businesses within Ogden City. And so the agreement, like I said, has been approved by the Ogden City Council last Tuesday. We ask your consideration for approving this new second agreement with Ogden City.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Bond on the Ogden City interlocal agreement?
Statement?
Go ahead.
It's ever present, especially when we meet with the Utah Association of Counties, all 29 collectively, how the program, Mr. Bond, you and your team, including Linnell and Brooke and Scott, Ricky,
Volunteers.
Have absolutely created and stood up a banner program that can be, if there's any audit, whether it be local, state, federal, the businesses wouldn't feel that impact of that audit because it works. And boy, another thing I'm grateful for, you and being able to get this money to them. And then I know Commissioner Furr, you had a lot to do with getting Ogden City some more money to the businesses of Ogden City. And I don't know that we need any thanks as far as with regards to that, but I'm sure glad we live in an area where we got great people here, smart people, certainly smarter than any other county in the state of Utah. Let that, Bill, if you could push that out to tens of thousands, I'd like that to be. That's it.
Thank you. Anything else? Additional comments?
With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the addendum on the interlocal agreement on the CARES Act funding with Ogden City, or item number G, like Gulf 2.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you, John. And I would just say, every time we get together, I give you accolades for what you've done. But especially knowing that the Ogden City project, as I call it, was not an easy path. We had to do some coaching. We had to do a little conversation, some selling, but at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. And I was glad to see that Ogden City finally agreed to see it our way. And because they saw it our way and were willing to accept what we felt was the best path forward, we were able to help a lot of small businesses. So again, you're the one that took a lot of the heat, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I might remind you, or let you know, Melissa just reminded me that on these nonprofits that we give them that last $2 or $3 million for, the Center of Excellence ended up going around on the other side and helping them put those together.
Absolutely.
So we helped give it and we helped organize it on the other side too.
Well, it just shows how well our team performs.
Yeah, that's true.
It really does.
That's a team.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bond.
Good. If I might appreciate the mayor and Mr. Johnson and Tom Christofelis. Special shout out to Sarah Stoffers for her excellent work at Ogden City. That's been just a wonderful experience working with them, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Sarah's done an excellent job, I would agree. Been great to work with. Okay, let's takes us to the request for approval of the agreements to provide coronavirus relief funds, CARES Act funding, to the following entities: Ogden Preparatory Academy, Venture Academy, Utah Military Academy, Da Vinci Academy, Leadership Learning Academy, St. Joseph Catholic High School, St. Joseph Catholic Elementary School, Guidepost Montessori Academy, Oak Grove School, Weber Fire District, Weber Housing Authority, and the Maria Montessori Academy. Mr. John Bond, do you want to give us the lowdown on that?
Yes. We worked a lot with all of our schools in all those various areas. We worked with two from higher ed, Weber State and the Ogden-Weber Technical College. We worked with 2 school districts, the Ogden and Weber School District. We've worked with 11 charter schools. We worked with 4 private schools. And the extent of that is that we've been able to help with the 2 larger school districts, Weber State, $750,000, Ogden Technical, $420,000. The 2 school districts, a little over $4.2 million. The 11 charter schools, which constitutes about 11% of the student population, we're pushing out about $429,000 to the charter schools, about $32,000 to the 4 private schools. So that's the school portion. In this also, we are also working with the fire district with about $250,000, and Weber Housing Authority about $150,000 to help in the housing authority area. So that constitutes this group that we're looking at today, with agreements with each to assist them in the community and help stabilize their organization. So I'd like to ask your consideration for the approval of that.
Great, thank you. Questions, commissioners?
I have one.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Bond, is this one for the Weber Fire District? Is that hazard pay included in that?
No, it is not.
Okay. Then I can vote for this.
All right, any additional questions? Comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair, those items listed on our agenda G3.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Harvey
And I'll second that.
and a second. Commissioner Jenkins, please say aye if you're in favor.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Those are approved.
Good.
Again, thanks again, John.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, it's time to go to our public hearing. I would look for a motion to adjourn this public meeting and reconvene as a public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now in a public hearing. This public hearing is to take input on the Weber County 2021 tentative operating and capital budget and the proposed Summit Road Overlay District tax increase. Keep in mind that we won't be taking any direct action on this tonight. We'll be taking it on our meeting in on December 15th. So with that, Mr. Scott Park, the time's yours. We're going to talk about the 2021 tentative budget and then the overlay district.
Correct. I have a slide presentation that's here, and I think we can show that up on the screen. Yep, there we go. Okay. So I just want to start out by talking a little bit about what Weber County government does, where we get our money, and where it goes to. So this first slide shows that Weber County Corporation, including all of the restricted money that Weber County receives, is going to get about $217.5 million in the 2021 calendar year. As you look at this slide, you can see we get about a quarter of it from charges for services, a little over a quarter from property tax, about a third from sales tax, and then we have some miscellaneous and grants. And that includes all of our state mandated functions and all of our business type activities, including restricted funds. So how this looks when we go out to spend it is we're actually going to spend about $231.5 million, and some of that is planned spend downs of money that we've built up over time for streets and improvements. But a lot of the money that we are showing as expenditures here, the county doesn't really have a lot of control over. For example, $25 million is going to go to UTA. That's based off a state statute. So we don't actually see the money. The money comes in to the state tax commission. We have to record it on our books as a revenue. We have to record it on our books as an expenditure, but we never actually see the cash. It's a flow through. So it's
Does the cash even hit the county?
It does not.
They send it directly to them.
They send it directly to them.
Yeah,
So-
we have to account for it. That is so funny.
Well, the state, since it's taxed under Weber County's taxing authority, we have to report it as revenues and expenses, even though we never see it. We never touch it. Yeah.
All that I understand, but I would have thought it would have had to have at least hit the ground here so we could record for it.
Nope. No, we just get a report telling us how much we have to record as revenue and expense. So, yeah. So we don't have a significant amount of control over a large percentage of these dollars. So what I want to focus on is the general fund. Now, this is where county commissioners actually have a great deal of say of how that money gets allocated. So when we drill down into our county general fund, there's $81.6 million of revenue we anticipate next year. Of that, 47% is going to come from property taxes, 32% from charges for services, and about 17% from sales tax. Now, how we plan to spend that money, so 55 cents on every dollar is going to go towards public safety. That's the majority of the county expenditures. 34% goes to general government, 3% goes to public health. Now, that's not the Weber Morgan Health Department. They're a separate legal entity. They have their own separate budget, but this is for mental health services, contributions to Weber Human Services. And then about 8%, which is all the other things that the county government does. Now, as we look at that on how that's broken out by object, 63% of that is spent on employee salaries and employee benefits. About 33% is spent on operating expenditures. That includes meals for the inmates. It includes facility maintenance. It includes special projects or contractors. 3% is going to go towards equipment. Those are pieces of equipment over $5,000 that we're going to capitalize and put on our books. And then about 1% goes to travel and training. So as you can see, employee compensation makes up a big share. And so whenever we do an increase for employee compensation, that's a lot of money. So this budget includes a 3% increase for pay for performance for county employees. 2% of that would be ongoing funds, meaning that their actual base salary will go up 2% if they qualify based off the pay for performance. And there's also money put aside for a one-time 1% bonus. So you could get up to 1% of your salary in a one-time bonus. So it doesn't carry over from year to year, just a one-time bonus. The county has also decided to standardize the contribution it makes with health insurance. And so it's moved to a 90-10 split if you have a high deductible plan and an 80-20 split if you have a traditional plan. And that also costs about another $1.3 million by going to that split. It kind of standardizes it across plans, and it includes the increase that our insurance companies passed on to us. So between those two, we're about $2.6, $2.7 million. Capital projects now. This is another big area where the county spends money. So I just wanted to go over some of the major capital projects we have included in this budget. So the jail has $1 million allocated for jail facility improvements, and this is a lot of miscellaneous projects. So it's fixing showers, it's fixing security systems, it's upgrading doors, there's a lot of miscellaneous projects that make up that number. There's also money in the budget for a new storage facility at the Sheriff's Complex. That's $1.6 million. Now, $900 of that was funded last year, and the rest of it was funded this year, but we haven't started the project, so that's all included in this year's budget. Now, we've got another $1.6 million that has been allocated to our culture parks and rec facilities. So that's the conference center, the ice sheet, the Golden Spike Event Center, and our parks. And then we have another $1.5 million allocated to county infrastructure projects. That's countywide. That would be the WEBER Center. That would be IT infrastructure and all the other various county departments added together. Another item to note is this budget includes $1.7 million to be set aside into a repair and replacement fund. Now, this is the second year you three as commissioners have done this, which we've never been able to do before. So now we have $3.4 million, or will have $3.4 million saved in the bank for future repairs for our facilities. So that gives us the opportunity that when we need to do maintenance on a boiler, we can do the maintenance and not just have to wait till it goes out. It allows us to be proactive in our repairs and maintenance and hopefully avoid issues that come on with deferring that maintenance too long. So what that means to the county general fund over the next 5 years, I want to show you this is our projection of the county fund over the next 5 years. Now, that green limit is the maximum amount of money we can have in our general fund by statute. And the red line is the minimum amount we've set by our fund balance policies, and we don't want to go below there. And you can see in 2019, we essentially maxed out. Now, 2020, you notice a small dip, and that's because we spent an awful lot of cash refinancing bonds. Now, we did that because we had a lot of cash, and it's allowing us to save $4 million. So it was a very wise thing to do. And we anticipate by the end of 2021 to be right back up against that fund balance cap. And going forward, looking through the next 5 years, we don't anticipate any need for a tax increase for the general fund.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
We are not anticipating any tax increases on the general fund over the next 5 years. Okay.
That's interesting.
The county general fund is in a good shape financially. We have cash that has allowed us to take advantage of these opportunities to refinance our debt. and do things like that. So we've been able to be proactive to save money as opposed to reactive and fixing things when they break.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to get in the way of your presentation. Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Mr. Hatch is our clerk auditor. You review these types of things all the time. Is that statement about no taxes and the county being in financial good position? Can we trust what Mr. Park's saying there?
Absolutely. In fact, I would trust him more than I trust me. The county's done a great job in the past few years at managing the finances, looking forward and being fiscally conservative, and that benefits everybody.
But that doesn't necessarily deal with the three of us commissioners, although we have financial obligation to execute both the executive and legislative. How does the county get to where we are so we're so healthy? Does it how does the county get there? How does it take? I mean, do you have any kind of a statement on that?
Yes, I do. And to be ultra trite about it, it takes a village. It really is a team effort, not just from the commission, because you ultimately have to make those decisions, and not just from the financial team that provides the recommendations and does the analysis, but really it goes down, all the way down to line supervisors and employees who have not just a frugality at all costs mindset, but really a smart spending mindset where we want to keep spending as low as possible without harming future spending. It could be on the surface, it's really smart not to change the oil in your car because then you save money. But that's dumb from a long-term perspective. In years past, the counties almost had to have that kind of perspective because funds were so tight. But for the past few years, we've had I'm not going to say luxury, but we've had the ability and the planning to be able to not only fund the oil changes, but to set aside money for new tires and a transmission repair. And that way we can do some additional maintenance that just reduces the costs in the future. So it's really a full team effort from management all the way down to the employees.
Thank you. Mr. Park, could you go back to the last slide that had the red, the green? That's it. And I believe that's a blue line. So, Mr. Hatch, based on what you just said, your statement, it says it takes a village. So what you're saying then is this graph shows that teamwork within the county, people who are collectively of the same mindset, are watching out for county dollars. As a team of 1,300 employees, this graph speaks to their work, what they've done collectively as a group. And so all people who have parcel numbers in Weber County benefit from that. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I was trying to say. You said it much better. Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that that point was brought out.
Yep.
I love very much the fact we've got great people at the county, and this is a direct result of all of their work. They're all doing very well, and they get along, and they, just like you said, Commissioner Jenkins and Commissioner Frohr, they work together well as a team, and sometimes it takes some unselfishness and giving and trusting, and this is the result, is everybody wins, and we're in a great place. We've been able to do things through this COVID. This is the budget where COVID was supposed to destroy and has destroyed other communities and counties. And look at what's happening with us here in Weber County. And these are only projections. I can tell you Mr. Ulibarri reported to us last week that in Weber County, the growth is just off the chart between third quarter of 2019 and 2020, third quarter of 2020, that we're up 17%. That's just as a community. So that this feeling, this atmosphere is spreading. It's the best place in the state, and people are catching on to that. They're realizing that, and that's in Mr. Ulibarri's figures show that. And so these are hard numbers. They're mathematically proven. This is what happens when people do right and do good. And commissioners, I compliment you for your work here, and what a great team we have at Weber County, all 1,300. And thank you so much, Ricky and Scott and commissioners, you in the room here too, for your work here. It's just great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Park, back to you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next fund. This is the...
So if you're getting ready to move to the next fund, there is one comment I want to go first make. And that is the fact that the public safety was up to 55% of the general fund goes to public safety. And I think when I got here 2.5 years ago, so this will be my third budget cycle, that I think public safety was under 50% of our budget. You think do I remember that right?
Let me turn, do you know, Steph? I don't know off the top of my head. It would have been right around 50%. So go ahead.
That's what I'm remembering.
Yeah. So my point being that we've stretched really hard as a county to fund public safety at a higher level, so we weren't losing our sheriffs. We had our deputies going, well, we had lots of them go to Salt Lake. We had them go to other departments. Ogden City was getting a few. And we've stopped that leaking now. And I just want to let public safety know that they've been really treated well here. And we've done everything we could, including they're getting a new storage building out there for $1.65 million. So we've really tried hard to treat public safety good the last 3 years. And we've done that. So that was a comment I wanted to make. Thanks, Scott. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries.
Commissioner Jenkins, I appreciate those comments, but I would say that even just as recently this evening, I had members of public safety come up and thank me for the commission of how we've helped them and supported them in their efforts. So especially in these difficult times that we've seen this year. So they do appreciate it very much.
Good.
That wasn't taken lightly.
And
Mr. Park, back to you.
Yeah, I'll just mention that public safety commissioners, you approved 11 new positions this year in the sheriff's office. And that's a big reason why that percentage jumped from close to 50 to 55 is you've approved new officers, new deputies, but also new individuals in the jail itself. So that's a lot of money goes in there, and payroll is a huge expense. So.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, the general fund. Now, this looks scary, but it's not. If you look up at that blue line going from 80% down just below that red line and then back up and over it, that was a planned spend down of that fund balance. We built that up. We used a lot of that money to pay off some bonds that were outstanding for the library to free up some ongoing expenses. And we also took $2.5 million of that and we transferred it into a restricted library repair and replacement account. So that's money that we're saving for future library capital improvements or future library facility. So while that looks like a big dip down, that we wanted to right size that fund balance, it was a little higher than it needed to be. And so we've saved that money and it can be invested and be used in the future for library facility repairs. So that's actually, with the way the graph looks going from 80% to 20%, it looks like we're losing a lot of money, but that's actually a planned spend down and we're anticipating we'll be right where we should be for the next 5 years.
Should be mentioned in that $2.5 million that we transferred were really surplus bond dollars. They were dollars that in the tail end that weren't spent, so it's not like we could give them back.
Great point.
Yeah.
Well, just to be clear, we spent a lot of money out of our own fund balance for those projects, and we used that to reimburse us. So all the bond proceeds did go towards the facility improvements.
That's true, but I don't want people to think we stole money or took money from the library system.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
correct. And all that money, and commissioners, you set up this fund last year, it is restricted to the library facility, so we can't take it out and
Right.
use it for something else anyway.
That's why I made the comment. It's not like we could do anything else with that dollars.
Yep. Okay, so this is the paramedic fund. Now, this year you'll see a little bit of a dip, and that is because the commissioners have chosen to fund the heavy rescue program this year and spin that up in the county. So that's a little bit of a one-time expenditure as we get some equipment. But the paramedic fund is still very healthy. And we anticipate that we have enough money in there to add an additional paramedic unit in the future if we need to. We have enough sufficient fund balance. Should that need arise in the next 5 or 7 years, we have that money available now. I'll move on to the health department. The health department currently is over their fund balance recommended level. It's not above a legal level, but just their recommended level. And they have a plan to spend that down and bring it back within its appropriate level over the next few years. And so we're just watching that. We're not worried about them at all. And I think that they're in actually a good, strong position to respond if the pandemic continues to rage, or if they need to dip into their fund balance a little bit to help with vaccinations. They have the fund balance to do it. Now, the Municipal Services Fund. Now, commissioners, we talk about Weber County Corporation and how Weber County is doing well as a whole, and it is. And you've heard me mention a couple of times the tale of two counties. Weber County has a Municipal Services Fund, which is our unincorporated area. So that's where you three sit as mayors of the unincorporated city of Weber County. Now, a couple of years ago, we raised taxes on the unincorporated. It had been raised ever since it was created, and it was way, way low. And we had planned to do it in 2 phases. One phase was we did a couple of years ago. We doubled that tax rate, which it was still the lowest in the county, even after we doubled it. And then there was a plan to bump it up again this year. Well, the thing that happened this year is that there was a petition to incorporate a portion of the Western Weber unincorporated area into a city. And so we thought that it would be wise to hold off on doing a tax increase this year, although we had planned to do it this year. We figured it would be wise to hold off until we saw what happened as a result of that incorporation, because if they incorporated, then we wouldn't need all the equipment that we had. We'd be overstaffed. We'd have to figure out what we were going to do with our roads department staff and such. Now that incorporation vote did not proceed, and so this projection that you see up here does not include a tax increase in future years. But I anticipate that we will need to either look at raising additional revenues next year, or we'll have to look at trimming back the level of service that we're providing. But you can see that so we're kind of at a peak right now, and we anticipate that going down over the next few years. We've had 3 new employees added to the Municipal Services Fund in this current budget. 1 will be paid for out of fees they charge. That's for our building inspections. We also added a plan review, and then a new employee in the engineering that's going to focus on the septic system maintenance and stormwater oversight. But one other consequence of funding our public safety is that our unincorporated area is a contract city. So our sheriff's office provides law enforcement for several cities, including unincorporated Weber County. And by increasing the number of employees that they have now, they're increasing the amount of money that they bill out to their contract cities. And so unincorporated Weber County has to pay that increase. And so that's going to be about $200,000. Now, when we talk about this fund compared to the general fund, they're almost they're order of magnitude different. The general fund has $80 million that flows through that in revenue and expenses every year. The Municipal Services Fund has $8 million. So when you talk about an increase of $200,000 to the general fund, that's a rounding error. To the Municipal Services Fund, that's a bit of money. So we'll have to address this in future years going forward. Now, one thing that we are doing...
Scott?
Sir.
One comment that should be made there also, and that is the fact that in the meantime, we've got an incorporation, a annexation that's taking place. And it's a substantial annexation. It's probably, in people, 5 to 6% of our total population of the unincorporated that is being annexed into Plain City. And so this also, we kind of waited for that to happen as well, too, because we knew that these were a couple of competing things.
Yep.
That were competing there. We weren't sure who was going to win out and how it was going to go and what was going to happen. And so in the end, I think it was wise what we did. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, and our fund balance, even though it's below that line, we still have money in there for reserve, and that's why we have a fund balance, is to be able to take an approach to wait and see what the best option is and not just have to rush out and do something, because we're out of cash. So that's another benefit of having a fund balance. We can make wise decisions over time. So one thing that the commissioners have decided to do this year is to create a Summit Road Overlay District. And let me pull this up. This is a map of Weber County, and if you can see right here, this little red box, so that is the Summit Road Overlay area. And I'll drill into that a little bit so you can see, and I'll see if I can turn this mouse to the laser pointer. So this road right here, if you can see that with the little red laser pointer, is the state road that goes up to Powder Mountain Ski Resort. Right here is that big bend in the road where, in that steep hill where the night skiing is down here, and then it kind of comes up to the top of the mountain right there. And then you can see from that point, here's this yellow outlined road. This is Summit Road. What we are doing is putting an overlay district on all the properties that are accessed through that road, and we're increasing the property tax. We're raising it to $125,000. And the reason is because we need to pay for snow removal. So just as an idea of what it costs to remove snow in Weber County, in the upper valley, Ogden Valley, it's about $7,000 a mile. And that's because when it starts to snow, it snows a little bit earlier up there than it does down here in the valley, and it lasts a little bit longer. When you come down to lower western Weber County, it's about $1,000 a mile to plow the road. But when you go up to that Summit Road, it's $53,000, almost $54,000 a mile of road. And that's because when it starts to snow, it snows all day, and then the wind blows that snow back on the road, and so it's a never-ending struggle. You could almost have somebody up there 24 hours a day plowing that road, and it's only 2.5 or 2.9 miles of road. So it's tremendously expensive to keep that road open. And now what we want to do is make sure that the lower, excuse me, I'm turning this back to we want to make sure that the lower valley and the Ogden Valley residents aren't subsidizing the cost of snow removal in the upper valley, in that Summit Road area. So if you want to live on the top of the mountain, that's fine, but you have to pay for your own snow removal. And so what we did is we went through and we did an estimate of the costs of what they pay in additional taxes, because there are some very nice homes up there and they pay more in property taxes. But also there's an additional cost of plowing that road. So we went through and did a calculation, and I won't bore you with all these numbers. But what it ended up showing is that we're short nearly $100,000 a year up there in terms of what they pay in additional taxes minus what it costs to plow that road. And so why raise the taxes $125,000 if we only need $100,000? And the answer is we need some equipment up there to actually remove that snow. We have a really old snow blower up there that I'm hoping lasts a little bit longer, but it's not going to last forever. And so we need some additional equipment to help remove that snow up there.
When people, sorry, commissioners, but just for people to know, this isn't a snow blower like you pull with a rope and you take an 18-inch path down your driveway. These snow blowers are the size of a locomotive. How tall is that auger on that, Commissioner Jenkins? Is it 6-8 feet tall?
Yeah, I'd say 6 to 7 feet. It's huge.
And it's as wide as 8.5, 9 feet wide, I think, and it puts the snow out. I mean, but you have to have something like that where it's drifting. You made a comment that if you go through 6-8 feet of snow and you get down the end of that road and you turn right around and you're going to do it again because the wind's already blown it back.
In fact, we've been up there this year so far. This winter season is just starting. Almost, I think right around 3 weeks, haven't we, Sean? 2.5 to 3 weeks already pushing snow. Already? Yeah. So for the roads department, winter started 3 weeks ago, and and to Scott's point, every winter's a little different. We've had some winters that have doubled what we're putting money aside for. So even this isn't doing it, and we know that it's short, but you got to start somewhere, and we all knew that when we decided to do this. And this is our start of doing it. And when Scott makes the comment that we're going to have $25,000 more revenue than the snow, that's in a normal year. If anything happens or we have any breakdown or there's a myriad of things that could happen there, that is going to affect that. So we got to have a little bit of a surplus.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. So with that, we're just presenting the budget today. We're not asking for any action on the tax increase, nor are we asking for action on to approve the final budget. What we would normally do would receive any public comment that anybody has today and also over the next week or so. And then we'll incorporate any of those comments that we hear. We'll run by you guys to make sure that you're okay with any changes that we make. And then we will pass the final budget, including the tax increase, on December 15th.
Got it. Anything else, Mr. Park?
Nope, that's all, unless you have any specific questions about the budget.
Any specific questions for Mr. Park we haven't discussed?
Good job, Scott. We appreciate it. You work very hard at this, and we have a lot of confidence and faith in your numbers and what you do.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, it's a pleasure to work with you. The county is fortunate to have a man of your ability looking over our finances. You know exactly what you're doing, and you tell us when we're heading the right way, and you tell us when we may be taking a left-hand turn when we should. So we appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you. It's easy when you have good staff, so.
That's right.
Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. So with that, let's go to public comments. Anyone online, Stacy? No, there's not. Nobody online. Anybody in the chamber? Seeing no public members, I'm assuming that means no. All right, we're not going to take any action. Final comments on the budget before we go back to our meeting, public meeting. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene as a public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now back in a public meeting. Again, just for those listening, if there are any left, we'll be talking about this on December 15, and you have your ability to put your comments in writing, email, etc., to Mr. Park or somebody here at the commission. So thank you very much. All right, commissioners, that brings us to the end of our agenda, which would be commissioner comments.
I do have one comment, and
Go ahead.
Commissioner Harvey can ask or answer this. I didn't get a chance to look at this, but we surplused a bunch of lights tonight. These are lights that are surplus because of the donation we received to redo the lights over there at the Perry Egyptian Theater.
That's correct.
Okay, I was pretty sure of that, but nobody ever stated that.
I should have, and I
That's okay.
intended to, but there's some clean one owners. They've only been owned. I think those lights were made by the Edison Company back in. We're sure glad for that improvement.
Good. Anything else? Commissioner Jenkins?
I appreciate everybody's efforts as a management, committee. And really, when we talk about the funding, the people who are sitting right here are part of that committee. It's been a pleasure to take the county where we've taken it this year, to retire debt, to pay off bonds, to put ourselves in our fiscal house in order. I have really enjoyed that. We've made some really good decisions. And this has really happened over a 3-year budget cycle. It didn't just happen on one, but it's all come together on the third one, this one that we've just done, because the other two, when you do these budgets, it's like having a great big vessel in the ocean. If you've ever been down there to Lake Powell and been on one of them 55, 60-foot houseboats, when you turn it, it doesn't just turn. It just starts kind of moving in that direction. Well, that's what these budgets are like. When you make these decisions, these budgets just start to turn a little. And then the next year you make another decision and it turns a little more. Then the next year you make another one, and next thing you know, you're going at about a 30% different angle than you were before. And that's what it takes. And that's kind of what we've done. I'm really pleased. And I want you commissioners to know I've loved working with you. And it just tickles me to death we've been able to do this between the three of us.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Harvey.
I'm doing my best to come up with some form of nautical, but I don't have anything.
Ask Mrs. Skeen. She'll come up with something for you.
She's the boater.
That's right.
So I would just say, we talked about the budget, and the state of the county obviously is in a great state financial-wise. I think we are in a lot of other areas, but this proves financially we've made some good decisions and I agree, it's been over the past 2 or 3 years, but we have started to turn that ship. And I think that as we talk about fiscal responsibility, it's all about the value that we bring, and that we bring as a team, the entire county team, all the employees, to the public. It's not about trying to not change your oil on time. It's not about trying to spend more than we have in our pocketbook at the time. It's about what can we do to make good decisions that gives value to the citizens of this county. And commissioners, I would say without a doubt, with your help, we've been able to do that over the last 3 years. So thank you very much. With that, I would entertain a final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.